This Yes2Maths video is about FDP, fraction decimal percentage equivalence. Specifically, let's think about the easy ones. We know, surely we know, that half is the same as 0.5. If we talk about half something, we talk about 0.5. It's the same thing, it's just two different ways, two different forms of writing the same thing. Whether it was half of a metre or 0.5 of a metre, half a litre, 0.5 of a litre, very much interchangeable, and we use both in language, we use both in maths, and they are important that we know how to interchange between those two. The percentage that's equivalent is 50%. And again, we talk about the percentage as a common way of referring to things. You wouldn't really talk about 0.5 of the people, but we might talk about 50% of the people. We could equally talk about half of the people. So depending on the context, really, you can choose which one fits, which one goes best in your sentence, or which one best describes what's going on. Arguments for use of decimals when it comes to measuring things. We probably wouldn't talk about 50% of the flour. If it was a measure, it would be 0.5 kilograms of flour or 0.5 litres of milk, something like that. So it does depend where we are and which one fits. But when it comes to equivalence, we need to know that 1/2 is equivalent to 0.5 is equivalent to 50%. And there are obviously various other ones that we should already know. We should be able to put a quarter on here, 0.25 and 25%. Sometimes gets missed out, but I think we should probably put on here. A whole, which is still a whole, but that fits in at 100%. And then we get 3/4, another fairly typical one, 0.75 and 75%. Maybe one more, just before we move on. Let's call it 1/10, which is 0.1, and that would be 10%. We do lots of work with fractions, where we're just worrying about fractions, whether we're simplifying, adding, using equivalent fractions, subtracting, multiplying. Lots of work. We have mixed numbers, we go between improper fractions and mixed numbers. Just pure fraction work. Decimals, we do all the normal stuff, we add and subtract them, we multiply with decimals, we might order them, we might put them in a list where we're going from smallest to largest, or we might just do something that involves, for example, finding the averages, but there are decimals involved. When it comes to percentages, we quite often find percentages of amounts, percentages of quantities, or we compare percentages in the same kind of way. But there's a little bit of maths where they specifically want you to be able to use all three, specifically for comparison. So they might give you a fraction, a decimal and a percentage, and ask you to put them in order, size order. 0.25 would be the smallest, 1/2 would be the one in the middle, and 100% would be the biggest. But if we are doing that comparison, we really ought to be comparing like for like. So let's just take that example for a minute. If we were given 1/2, 0.25 and 100%, we were asked to put them in order, even though we might be able to do it off the top of our heads. Top tip is to turn them all into the same thing. Which do you think? Is it easier to turn them all into fractions, or into decimals, or into percentages? Well, I'm going to go for percentages, because I know that although these ones are actually quite nice and quite easy, when it comes to comparing fractions, when they've got different denominators, things can get a bit tricky. So, 1/2 is 50%, that's easy. 0.25, 25%, and 100% we were given as 100%. Now we can put them in order. We can easily see this is the smallest one, then this one, then this one. And you'd be very tempted, I'm sure, to write your answer like this. Put them in order please, 25%, 50%, 100%, and you would be not quite right. Because they gave us this, this and this. And those are the three that they want us to put in order. So we've got 25% as our smallest value, but in our list we can't use 25%. We've got to use the 0.25 that they gave us to start with. Next, we're going to go for 50%. Again, we can't use the 50%. We've got to use the 1/2 that they gave us. And finally, they gave us 100%, so we can definitely use 100%. we have now put them in order. We've kept them in their original form, the ones that they gave us to start with, but we have used a little bit of conversion. We've converted them all into percentages to make it easy to put them in order.